I'm now thrilled to introduce to you an impressive alum of our Youth Policy Accelerator program, Saia Darira. Saia is a graduate student at Columbia University studying for a Master of Public Administration in Environmental Science and Policy. She serves on the U.S. Youth Advisory Council to the United Nations Ocean Decade, where she works to engage youth and ensure their voices are heard. Additionally, she is a UN climate negotiations intern with the U.S. Department of State, where she ensures that high-level international climate policy negotiations are understandable to the public at large. Saia is deeply passionate about the intersection between mental health and the climate crisis and has done research on ways for environmentalists to navigate climate anxiety and ecological grief. She is a nationally trained mediation facilitator and leads mediations on eco-anxiety. Saia, you are a fierce advocate for reform, a voice of progress for the next generation, and a source of hope for all of us. Welcome, Saia.
Despair, grief, anxiety, hopelessness. What is the correct response to the world being set on fire? A few months ago, NASA recorded July 22nd, 2024 as the hottest day ever recorded in the history of Earth. Climate change is an issue of utmost importance, yet community and government leaders don't seem to be doing enough to address this issue. Coincidentally, that same day, July 22nd, 2024, I was in New York watching the climate clock strike down from 5 years to 4 years. We have around 4 years to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius before it is too late. According to scientists, we're living during the Earth's 6th mass extinction. Usually mass extinctions are driven by natural shifts, like the Ice Age. But this mass extinction is being driven by human-driven climate change. People are already dying. Climate change is not just a matter of it getting hotter outside, it's a matter of life and death. If we keep going the way we're going, several cities in Florida will be underwater by 2050. That's only 26 years away. More and more wildfires will be emerging in the US, being triggered by climate change. When I first moved to New York a year ago, the sky was completely orange due to wildfires in Canada. Scientists have predicted that there might be water wars in 2050 between countries when it's predicted that at least 3 billion people will not have access to clean water. Additionally, islands are currently sinking and some will be completely underwater in 10 years. That is, if we keep going the way that we're going and we don't change things. These statistics are only possibilities, they're not a reality, and we can change that. You and me hold so much power. We're living during monumental times where the actions we choose to do will determine whether or not climate disasters continue to exist. We can either slow down climate change or accelerate it due to our decisions every single day. That type of weight can feel paralyzing, especially to young people who will have to face the future. And there have been studies that have shown a deep link between climate change and mental health. Droughts have been exacerbated by climate change and have led to farmers dying by suicide in India. Extreme climate disasters have led to impacted individuals having more PTSD. Heat waves have decreased the presence of social cohesion in society, and conflict and violence have risen in warmer temperatures. And additionally, people with psychotropic medications are more sensitive to temperature changes. According to Mental Health America screeners, they have cited climate change as a contributing factor to their mental health concerns. It can feel so easy to fall culprit to losing hope. I often find myself feeling scared about where humanity is going. How can one find hope when it feels like the world is falling apart? A year ago, I traveled to Dubai for the United Nations COP28 conference, also known as the UN climate negotiations. 10 years ago, the Paris Agreement was built at one of these climate negotiations, and every year, world leaders meet to make new decisions on climate change. I remember walking through those conference halls, feeling a deep sense of ecological grief and anxiety. But it wasn't just anxiety I was feeling. I was also feeling imposter syndrome. Oftentimes, young people are not invited into these rooms, and decisions are made without young people present in those rooms. And I truly felt like I wasn't belonging there. And it's so heartbreaking to see that happen. We need more young voices present in these areas, especially because these policymakers are making decisions about the future of the world without the people living those futures present in those rooms. Young people have fresh ideas, wild imaginations that can easily lead to bold changes in families, communities, and society. During that conference, I felt a shift occur within me. Amidst the ecological grief and climate anxiety I was feeling, I also felt other emotions, including awe and hope, when I saw the young people around me advocating for change. I watched in inspiration as people took to the streets, refusing to be silenced, refusing to be ignored about climate activism. And the drowning weight I felt in my chest was not a sensation I was experiencing by myself. I realized I was not alone in what I was feeling. When I discovered I was not alone in experiencing ecological grief and climate anxiety, I also discovered something incredibly important. Hope can coexist with grief and anxiety. Ecological grief and climate anxiety are natural responses to climate change. And if you're experiencing grief and anxiety about where the world is going, know that you are not alone, and it is valid to feel that way. But also know that it is not too late. It is not too late. It is not too late. Do you know what gives me hope in the world? It's you and every single one of you. I hope you know that the reason why there's hope in the world is because you exist. Your contribution matters, and you matter. I hope you never doubt the presence and the power of your presence in this movement to create change in the world. I have found the deepest reasons to hold on to hope through the power of community and looking at people around me. By joining community efforts to address climate change, I have found resilience, comfort, and camaraderie. I have participated in climate marches and felt a deep sense of optimism looking at the hundreds of thousands of marchers around me. I have sat across the desks of policymakers advocating for climate policies and looked at people sitting next to me, remembering that I'm not alone in this fight for change. And I've seen more and more media outlets and news covering climate change instead of ignoring it like an issue that doesn't need to be cared about, because of social media activists talking more about it. And to all the people listening to this, we need you in this movement. I know that climate change can feel terrifying and devastating to come to terms with, but the level of devastation you may feel about the world also shows the level of empathy and love you hold. To care so deeply about the suffering of others, to me, is a form of strength. And there are solutions emerging all around us. The world currently invests more energy in renewable energy compared to fossil fuels. Groups of youth across the world are successfully suing the government for their lack of action on climate change, holding politicians accountable. The Inflation Reduction Act was passed a few years ago, which is one of the most historic laws in the US to ever address climate change. When we work to solve climate change, we're also improving the mental health of communities. And there are more solutions that need to be made and implemented. There is still progress to be made. A bill called the Community Mental Wellness and Resilience Act of 2023, which was introduced in both the U.S. House and Senate, requires that the CDC gives grants to community mental wellness and resilience programs, which can include programs that address climate resilience. I encourage you all to reach out to members of Congress to advocate for this bill and other bills addressing climate and community resilience to be passed. Or you could also join local environmental groups to advocate for climate policy, such as the Sierra Club and Sunrise. You could also join a local climate march. In fact, this Friday is a global climate strike with the Fridays for Future movement. Almost every single city in the US and the world will be having a climate march, including one in DC. So if you're in the area, I definitely recommend you join that. I also recommend holding leaders accountable. And if you want, you could also sue the government if you feel like they aren't doing enough to address climate change. We need all of you to hold on to hope. There is still hope. We need the artists, the poets, the innovators, the dreamers, the activists, and the creatives to all join us. You have something unique to contribute to this movement. There's a home for you in this movement for change, and there's a home for you in this world. I refuse to fall trap to the idea that there is no hope in solving this climate disaster. It is not too late. It is not too late. It is not too late. Thank you so much.